on Cube Gamers, but this is the other show that I do. So yeah, welcome. It's nice to have new people.
That's pretty cool.
So cool. But yeah, so there's a lot of cool new stuff to talk about today. Once again, if you are joining us from the Cube Gamers
That's
side
okay,
of
we don't
things,
need
then,
intros.
yeah, you will know. I was just about to intro you. Just about to. It's all right. It's okay.
No, it's fine.
I have co-hosts too, by the way, just in case you were wondering.
No, I'm still a special
They need
guest.
intros. Adam has been a friend of mine for a very long time, and he joins me every week. And he sounds like he's dying.
He's the one coughing.
Yeah,
Coffee.
he's the one coughing. Coffee. Oh God. Yeah. Thanks, Adam, for joining me. There's your intro.
Nice.
And I'm also joined by another great friend of mine, Jared, who I've never met him in person, but
Yeah, we will. We will. meet
eventually
someday.
we will do that. We'll make that happen.
We're on the same
and,
coast now, so it's.
Then we'll be real friends. What's going on, Elias Ramos Salazar? Welcome to the live stream. Talking Sith, like I said, it's a show that we've been doing for a while now. Please go to the Talking Sith YouTube channel. All of that is going to be in the description in just one moment. I'm trying to do a couple things at once, so all of those links will be in the description, so you can go check over at our other YouTube channel, Talking Sith, where we have had many of the episodes. We've almost been doing this for a year, so if you have any interest in Star Wars whatsoever, then this is the show for you. But yeah, guys. We're here to talk about a couple things tonight. Star Wars Battlefront has finally gotten an update worth talking about. It's oh gosh. Have you guys looked at the new progression system yet? Have you had time?
Oh, I don't even know what's going on. I tried to open up my daily crate. It's like no crates are available.
No crate.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if maybe because you guys haven't. Have you checked out? It doesn't say unopened crates yet. I played earlier today and there was nothing, and I was like, hey, where are the crates and how do you get to them? And then I played like a match, and
They're usually there after your first match.
Yeah, and then now I have 10 open. I have 10 unopened crates. So
okay, that makes more sense.
I'm gonna pop open those crates while we're sitting here chatting. Hey, it's okay if you don't have the game, because we also talk about just regular Star Wars stuff. So if you don't have the game, that's okay, because we're just here to talk about Star Wars. We have our show every Wednesday. So there's lots of Star Wars to talk about this week. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. So even with the movies and gosh, they're about to start filming the show, I guess, or they're supposedly started filming, not the show, the Rian Johnson, his little trilogy there. That's supposed to be in the works at this point now. So, yeah, there's plenty to talk about, but Star Wars Battlefront 2 is why we are here, and we're going to chat about that really quick. So, as I'm talking about it, I'm going to go ahead and open up my crates. So, the biggest difference that I've noticed, obviously, so far in this game is, if you guys have played this game at all, you've noticed that it had crates and you had to use your credits to pay for the crates, and it was really dumb. And the only way you could level up is you had to like unlock these star cards, and the star cards somehow correlated to a number, and that number went up when you. It's just bad news.
It was dumb.
It's progression based now.
It is now progression based. So I played a little bit. I was on level, like, so now before I started the game after this update, I was like level 42-ish, I think. 42 or 43 on my heavy.
That's crazy.
And then the game did the update, and now I'm level 24, which is odd. So it like kind of pushed me back, but it makes sense because the star cards aren't the way you level up anymore, and now you level up like based off skill points, which is how a shooter is supposed to work. So it's nice because now the game is working the way the shooter is supposed to work, and most shooters have worked up to this point. So it's it'll be nice to kind of start
Such a
playing
fresh take.
and getting a different idea
I
to
actually
what's.
played a lot.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is I thought to myself, you know, Fortnite, as much as people do or don't like that game, most people I know like the game. But it's whether you do or don't like Fortnite or games like that, they're popular, and the biggest thing is that, for the most part, I think PUBG does cost money, but like they're free and they're cheap if they're not free, and you're only paying for cosmetic stuff if you want to. And that seems... Yeah, I think PUBG is like $20 or something like that.
It's real cheap.
So,
It is now.
sorry, my nose is itchy, guys. I'm like scratching my nose on live stream. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure, like, how I felt about it was like, I don't know if Star Wars Battlefront 2 is going to be relevant again, but it's at least playable again.
Yeah, I
So
wish
that's
they
nice.
would release some content with this.
So
update.
yeah, so that's the other thing is they've announced Bespin map coming out, which is going to be pretty cool. But I think it's limited to heroes versus villains and Blast, so it's a small
Right.
map. But that's coming out,
Right.
and then like we said last week, I'm sure we'll get something
Dude,
for
that just doesn't get me
solo.
going. Like that was a fun map on the first game, but that doesn't get me going. I want some Clone
Yeah,
Wars, man.
I
That's
mean,
what the people want.
Or solo.
Give it to-
That's true. We need the Clone Wars era stuff. And I mean, we're hopefully gonna get the solo era stuff. I mean, with this update, we did get different skins for different characters. Like
Yeah, I
Leia
saw-
has
Leia has some-
kind of like an adventurer skin, it's called, which is an interesting name for it. And then she has a Hoth skin. The first person I went to go check out was like Maul and like Vader and characters like that, to see if they had some sort of like cool, nifty like Maul, you know, not light side, but just like maybe if they gave him like a different robe or I don't know, anything, but none of that yet. Just alter anything, and then the soldiers, the heavy class, you know, assault class, they still don't have any customization.
But
So
they're adding it.
they are adding it. So there's tons of positive things because the game just is working a whole lot different than it used to, which is nice. But so as far as the crates that they give you when you start over, or not start over, but after you do the update, I got 10 new crates, and I don't know what's in them. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this first one, and
Let me know.
we're gonna see what's in it. And hopefully, it's because it's supposed to just be cosmetic stuff. So
cool.
we'll see what that means.
I
So
thought
I
it was
got
supposed to be emo.
500 credits and an
Oh.
Iden Versio emote.
I have so many credits that are coming out of my ears. I don't even know what to do.
I know,
Yeah, I
I've
don't
been
know what to do
saving them
with
up
me.
too, because I thought they would release a character or something that
I
would
know,
cost
like,
some credits.
2 months ago.
Yeah, well, with this update, they also made all the characters. They gave you all the characters and all the ships. So there's no need to spend any credits on that. So
Oh, that
I
sucks,
opened up another
since I
one.
did.
Characters.
Yeah, I got a
Can I
get a
Kylo
refund?
emote. Yeah,
Are you
so it's
serious?
just credits and emotes, basically. It looks like.
No,
Cre-
they gave you
credits.
all the characters.
Yeah, they give you all the credit. They give you all the characters.
What?
That means they're gonna
Yeah.
add some.
What?
Guaranteed.
Imagine
That
being
means
the
they
guy
have
that
to add
spent like
some.
80,000 credits.
Yeah,
on Darth
well,
Vader.
imagine being me. Be me.
It's
Imagine being me.
It's like a
Imagine
fortune
being
over
Adam.
there. It's like a
Imagine
green
being-
text block. Be
Dude,
me.
what?
Spend 80,000
There
credits.
should be like a.
Go to
that's-
sleep.
that's
Wake up.
crazy to me, 'cause
Everyone's free.
It's like
Yeah.
all the hard work that people put in that first got the game. It's like out the window. Who cares anymore?
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't put in a lot
Yeah,
of
I don't-
hard work to get characters. I spent a lot of credits, and I didn't do work to get credits. I just did like little
Well, you
challenges.
know what I mean. Like just the straight up time, and now people just get it.
Yeah, but they're not progression based. Like I am not stoked that they're free now or that they gave them all away. But
Okay.
I don't think that I feel like I earned the characters. I feel like I just should have gotten them for free if everyone else was going to.
If I see someone
just
playing
waited.
Vader that didn't earn it, I'll be like, wow.
Yeah.
This is...
Yeah, I
guess
mean, I kind of think it's one of like two things where it's like I think the whole idea, and I hate to keep comparing it to this game, but it's like the one shooter that everybody's playing right now, so I feel like it's the most relatable. But like, if you look at like Fortnite, there's no like the skill level is the same across the board. Like you can't pick a character or this character. Like it's everybody's at the same play level, and you drop onto the map, and then whatever happens from there is dependent on how good or not good you are at the game.
Oh, Leia looks weird.
And I think giving everybody every character and every hero ship is kind of a nice move because it makes it so now the game isn't based on, like, did you spend the most money? Did you, like, do this? And it sucks because if they would have started it like this, then none of this would have mattered. But because they didn't start the game this way...
Yeah, that's my complaint.
It's like,
I don't
unfair.
care that everyone has it. It's just unfair. You're already saying it's unfair to people if they don't like it.
Yeah, I just try to think to myself, like, is it nicer that we finally have a progression system that actually makes sense? Or, like, you know, the thing is, like, I already had everything unlocked anyway. So I guess, like, I don't know. But like you said, like, it is annoying because there are people that I know definitely didn't have everything unlocked already. So
exactly. If people have played the game for like 2 hours, put it down, they pick it back up.
Exactly. And now they have everything.
That's why they have to add stuff. If they add, like,
I will say
like
this, though, they don't have all the star cards. Yeah, that's true. They do have to add stuff.
If they add a bunch of characters and then let you unlock those ones through a progression type thing, then I'm cool. But if they don't add anything, then this is just them saying, all right, we're done making content, we're done caring about this game, so everyone just get your stuff for free while we wait until something else comes out.
It's just, I don't know, this game, I feel like they just keep shooting themselves in the foot, and I hope they turn it around, but...
Right,
I feel like they just,
We'll see when we get some maps. That'll be the big.
It's just frustrating because it's Star Wars. It's like, how hard could it be?
Yeah, the only thing they did recently, and we have neglected to mention it on recent episodes. I did an episode alone where I played it, but they did have jetpack cargo, which was a nice little like bridge the gap between lulls and content. And it was fun, but it was one map, it was one game type, and you couldn't play it in like a matchmaking way. You had to just select jetpack cargo, and it was also for an extremely limited time. So, but I did have fun playing it the night I was streaming it. It's just we haven't mentioned that yet. I forgot. We keep forgetting to talk about that.
Okay.
So they're doing some things, but I'm with you. I think that if they want to make a game and say we're not going to charge you for a season pass, they got to do something. They got to throw us a bone.
Throw me a bone here.
Whoa.
This is my first time at the end of the match.
The scoreboard's weird.
Collection.
Yeah, so, sorry
place.
guys if there's an issue with the audio on the Cube Gamer side. I think the Talking Sith side is all good to go, but I'm still working on stuff on the Cube Gamer side. So, so if you can't hear Adam and Jerry very well, I apologize. I'm going to try to get their audio at the levels that they need to be.
Oh, I see what's happening here, Chaz. I see how it is.
Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff. I'm trying to balance out like so much stuff right now, and make it all work. And it's all new. So as far as the newest, like, as everybody getting like the heroes and the hero ships, and I agree with Adam. Like the only way that I could see them doing this, and not really worrying about backlash is if within the next couple weeks or hopefully within a month, we'll get like an influx of like new content. Like you said, you already know that Bespin is on the way, so that's
right.
I mean,
and there's nothing
Adam
coming out right
it.
now. Oh, go ahead.
Adam talked about it a while ago. There's like they have stuff to release. I feel like they're just holding off. Like,
yeah.
I don't get why. What are they waiting for?
Yeah, I don't quite. I don't know either. I don't know if it was that maybe they had to take a pause, like. I was thinking, because me and Adam were talking about it last week, where we were saying, like, it seems odd that they don't have any content out at this point. It seems odd that, they haven't released anything. And what I'm thinking is they had a bunch of stuff, and they were like, all right, cool, the game's out. We're going to give them some time to play it, and then we're going to release it. And then everybody lost their minds and were like, this game is awful. Like, you need to do something. And then so they were like, oh, crap, let's redo the progression system, and then we'll drop all the content, because there's no point in worrying about having to balance characters when
If we're gonna I got you. Yeah.
Exactly, when we're gonna have to redo the progression system anyway.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that's weird. That's the one part of this that seems like it came out of left field. Like, we knew that we were going to get a progression system. We knew that we were going to lose loot crates most likely. We didn't know we were going to get all the characters for free, though.
Yeah, so I know. So, like...
That's the part that's, like... It doesn't seem planned, or at least planned very well.
Why would they not give us a heads up?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's kind of...
Yeah, that part of it's weird. But they're not...
They gotta let us know, like, 2 months ago, like, hey, we're gonna, release some characters for free.
Stop buying characters. Because literally last time we played, I was like, oh, man... If I have all these credits, if I needed a character, I'd be spending them. And I'm glad that I didn't, or didn't need to, because I would have been pissed. But
it also makes me wonder when they release new characters, are they going to be free? Like, they probably will be, I
which if they are, that's
the point of
there's an argument for both sides.
Well, the point of the credits is for cosmetic stuff.
Cosmetics only.
Yeah, cosmetic only stuff. Like, that's the whole point of them. So.
I get it, and I guess I'm just kind of bitter because I did buy all the characters. So it's just like,
well, I mean, that's one thing that does make this game unique too, is that we talk about how, like, it could do things like all the other shooters do, and in terms of a progression system and how you use your credits and stuff. But no other shooters have heroes or vehicles like this game does, where you have to unlock them this way. So whatever this game does is how that is done, if that makes sense. Like, you can't go play Call of Duty and unlock Luke Skywalker. So that part of it, they can't really emulate another game.
Imagine how sick that'd be.
Yeah, that's very
I'd be
true.
playing Call of Duty instead of this.
Skywalker. Dude, how cool would that be?
Dude, the Ninja Turtles in Injustice are radical enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I mean, it sucks because I was like you, Jared, where I spent, I bought all the characters because, I wanted them all.
I guess, but at first it's like, man.
So.
Come on now.
But yeah, so,
I feel like we bashed this game
in other Star Wars news, if you haven't already known, and we did talk about it at another point in time, Rian Johnson is taking over, or not taking over, but he's writing or spearheading the next 3 movies in the trilogy. He's writing and directing. So,
yeah, but it's his own trilogy. It's not the continuation of the current saga.
Yeah, it's
Skywalkers.
something new. Yeah. That, I guess, is now in production. It started. I guess it started pre-production. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they haven't cast yet. Sorry, I got an audition notice, which is the only reason I know anything.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Would you want to be in that movie? I mean, obviously,
what kind of question
if you want to take your acting career
any movie
to the
out
next
there,
level.
yes is the answer.
Yes.
Star Wars movie?
I don't know if I don't know how excited I am for a new trilogy.
Well, as a fan, yeah, but as an actor, yes is the answer. If someone hands you a role, you take
excited.
it. I think
you're excited. Do you want to see something from you?
Yeah, I think it'll be cool. I mean, after The Last Jedi, I get why people are like, "Oh man, I don't want Rian Johnson touching Star Wars." But I mean,
see, I don't get that part of it. I get why I would be tired of Star Wars. Well, not tired of Star Wars, but why some people would maybe have like a Star Wars fatigue. But I don't get why Rian Johnson would be the reason, particularly after Last Jedi. I thought Last Jedi was an example of him doing fine, but I know a lot of people don't agree with that.
Yeah, I just recently rewatched The Last Jedi, oh gosh, I got it on digital.
What?
And I watched it again, and after being able to watch it at home, I don't know. I'm so weird about The Last Jedi. I don't know how I feel about it.
Weird in general.
It's fine.
It's just,
You're allowed to not like it.
It's hard. It's because it's not that I don't like it. You know what I mean? It's just like it's not my least favorite movie, and it's not that it's like a bad movie. Well,
no, I gotcha.
It's not that it's a bad movie. You know
what I
mean?
You're not alone in feeling that way. I mean, Adam and I both liked it, but I understand why people would not like it. It's fine.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with people disliking Star Wars movies. Like the prequels are obviously the most fallen back on example. But yeah, I think that you can enjoy it for what it is and appreciate what it brings to the Star Wars universe and the fact that it moves you forward to Episode 9 without particularly loving the movie. It's like we talked about with Rogue One. Like, if I'm watching Star Wars, I'm going to watch Rogue One, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I like it as a Star Wars movie. It's my least favorite without any, measure of anything else being close. So I think that you could feel that way and there's no problem with it. It's still, it's still got some really cool stuff. I think that's an objective truth. Like, if you said, I think that there's no redeeming qualities for it, then I would say that you're just hating for the sake of hating.
No, it definitely has some.
Well, no, there's a ton of people who are saying that right now, though. Whereas,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Whereas, if you said, I think the throne room scene was really cool, and I think that the space combat was kind of ridiculously awesome and all that, but I didn't care for how Luke ended or how Rose was portrayed or whatever. Then, whatever. That's measured opinion. But if you said there's no redeeming qualities, then you're clearly
then that's
drinking the haterade.
No redeeming qualities? You're kind of just saying that to get attention.
Right.
Yeah, there's because that's the thing. It's like I think it's kind of wrong to say that it has no redeeming qualities whatsoever because it's not, like I said. That's to say, that's like almost saying like it's just a trash movie, like from start to finish.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying.
That just doesn't make any sense to me. Like it's not a terrible movie from start to finish. That's not the case whatsoever. It's
I feel like what you're saying.
It's
a good, correct me
like,
if I'm wrong. It's like you're saying it didn't live up to the hype for you. That's what you're saying.
It didn't, and it's like, and you know what it was? It's not even necessarily that it didn't live up to hype for me, but that's definitely part of it. But like, it was more so that it was just this jarring. It was like almost like it
intentionally.
I just wasn't
it was
ready
trying
for
to
it.
buck
like,
your expectation of what a Star Wars movie should be, and specifically what Last Jedi was going to be. But I think there are parts of it that are like distinctly, intentionally a left turn, and some of that takes away from just sitting back and enjoying it. But at the same time, Rian Johnson's that kind of writer too. That's not like new to Last Jedi. I think if anything, we should have expected to have been more taken aback by some of the stuff that happened.
And that's fine. Like, I have no issue with Rian Johnson being a specific kind of writer. I have no issue with The Last Jedi, like, having a specific motive when it comes to how they wanted to storytell. But I do have an issue with not keeping... It was like the same thing with you in Rogue One. Like, you didn't feel like it was Star Wars, so it just took you out of it. And that was the same thing for me with Last Jedi, where I just couldn't find the Star Wars in it. And
that's weird.
And whenever I did have those moments where I was like, all right, there it is. That's like the Star Wars moment I was looking for. It just felt subpar to other Star Wars moments. Not to mention, there was just...
That's because of your
expectations. You already had your predetermined opinion of what a Star Wars moment is.
Yeah, that's the point. He wanted to throw that away.
But at the same time, like, there are certain things like, oh gosh, like...
You're allowed to say you don't like his Star Wars moments, but you can't say that it's...
Right, there's like, Star Wars moments out the butthole. Like, as a Star Wars fan, it starts off with this crazy space fight. It's got Poe Dameron doing tricks in the X-Wing you've never seen anyone else do. It's got... I would agree that it changes Star Wars moments, and again, I think that was the point. Like, the way the Force is used is not the same way the Force is used in other Star Wars movies. But I think that was like on purpose.
I see your point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's like I said, as far as the film goes, I like it as a movie. It's not a bad movie, and in fact, it's a decent film. Like it starts off pretty fast, and it doesn't really slow down until the end, which is nice. It keeps you kind of like engaged the whole time. I will say, after watching it again at home and having time to sit and really like go back and watch it with the subtitles and things like that, I just can't stand Finn and Poe's storylines. Like, I just don't like them. I just can't get on board. Like, I tried to so hard because I really love Finn as a character. Like, he's legitimately one of my favorite new characters in the Star Wars universe. And every time I felt like he had a moment in that movie that was awesome Rose said something so freaking stupid that I was just like, oh my god, like, I just, like, every time I was like, all right, here we go, Finn, she, like, popped her head out and was like, oh, we gotta fight for what we love, and it's just like, shut up. Like, I was just getting so tired of her. And then, like, even, like, the casino moments were just so annoying, like, where I was just like, you know, there was such a, you could have explained in so many different ways how the reason those people on that planet were rich was because of the fact that they were selling weapons. Like, there was a lot of ways that you could have explained that. Instead, you give her this ridiculously clunky exposition that is, like, really poorly delivered, and it almost makes Finn look bad because of how crappy the acting and just altogether just a moment was, where I was just like, it just got to a point where I was like, I don't even care. I don't even care about you anymore. I just want you to stop talking. Like, every moment she was in was so annoying.
I know some neckbeards you get along with.
It's almost like it's not like that you don't like The Last Jedi. It's like you just despise Poe in its parts.
Poe's storyline just was disappointing because it just, to me, it's like, why go through this whole thing, like, alright man, you need to, like, not just jump in your X-Wing and shoot stuff up and blah blah blah, and, like, yet the whole time I never really feel like he actually learns that lesson, because every time something goes wrong, he just jumps in an X-Wing and blows stuff up. And then, like, we get to the end, and, like, Leia's like, oh, you know, it's I guess it's your turn to take over now. And it's like, what has he done through this entire time to prove that that's the case? Because from my recollection, he has just been doing exactly what you asked him not to do.
Wait, so how is that different from Han in the original trilogy? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Because that's identical.
Because you can see, like, Han change over time. Like, even as he's having the argument, sort of, with Leia.
No, go back to the time after Empire.
And Emperor.
Go back to after Empire, because this is the second movie. So he might be a commanding officer in the third movie, just like Han was in Return of the Jedi, and have a completely different experience when he's not the one who's actually flying the mission. So I don't know. I see what you're saying. I just think that well, first of all, you're drinking the haterade way stronger than I thought you were going to. But I feel like I agree that I didn't enjoy Finn's storyline because I didn't think it used Finn as well as Finn deserves to be used. But I don't agree about most of Rose's writing or her acting. I thought she was actually a pretty good actress with.
See, like, and now I have no issue with the actress herself. Like, the actress herself is fine. Like, I think she's a perfectly fine person. Like, whatever, she seems like a decent actress. Like, but it's just like her, like, role in Star Wars was just, it was, oh my god. Every time I watch it, it's hard for me to get over how much I don't like it.
It was a little cringy. I know what you mean.
It was very cringy.
That's what I was gonna say,
like, most moments she had were like, oh my god, Rose. Like, really? Like, even when he first meets her. And, like, you know, they're going back and forth. And he keeps having these, like, classic, charismatic, you know, Finn moments where it's like, this is why we like Finn as a character. He's funny. He's, like, whatever. Like, that, you know, where he's saying, like, oh, yeah, I'm a hero. You know, I'm a hero of the Resistance, you know, whatever. Like, that's the Finn that we like. And I feel like every time she talks, she just pulls away from how awesome a character he is. Because she just says something that's just, it's like, I don't know.
I was gonna say, I think that she does have like 2 or 3 really bad moments that are they're magnified because, one, they're among the worst moments in the movie in general, and then 2, that she's an easy target because she's, you know, new and a POC, not from you specifically. I'm talking about the trolls on the internet, but she's a POC and she's a female and she's new to the franchise, so. They can use her as this, you know, emblem of SJW-ness that really isn't what she is. Right. She's just a character that is there to further other characters' developments. But I don't think that everything she says is terrible or that she's, you know, poorly delivered. Or I really think that she has 2 or 3 really bad scenes that make you feel like the rest of her scenes are maybe worse than they actually are by themselves.
Maybe it's just by the time she does say something that doesn't make me want to rip my insides out.
But that's the other thing, is that
by the
she's,
time
even her
she
bad
does say
stuff
something,
isn't
I'm
bad
just
enough to
like, I
make
don't
you
even
feel
want to
that
hear.
strongly about it, I feel like.
Oh God, it's
Yeah.
you know what it is. It's just that like I think it's because of how much I love Finn as a character. And
Well, yeah, but I
just,
do
I get
too.
so
I just
disappointed by how little he grows as a character because of her. Like, she stunts his growth because of, like, I just didn't think that, like, if you're gonna have a love interest with Finn, I'm perfectly fine with that, but, like, it just seemed
You want it to be
forced.
Rey.
The love interest seemed forced, and it just seemed like the whole time I just kept thinking to myself, like, I can't see why he's invested in her anyway, other than the fact that she, like, shocked him and made him, like, come along. I don't know. There's never a point where I am convinced by the fact that they like each other. And even then, whenever there's a moment where I'm like, all right, here we go, like, maybe we can, like, come back.
Well, I mean, that is the scene specifically that I was talking about. The one scene that ruins her is the fact that they end up being an interest for each other. But if they hadn't had that one scene, I would have said, like, all right, she's not my favorite character. But I mean, like, think about what Star Wars has done with characters like her in the past. Like, compare it to someone like Jar Jar or the droids or you know, there's lots of characters that are written really, really similarly and not carried out as well. I'm not saying she's my favorite character, because she's not. She's probably my least favorite character from the new movie. I just don't think that to react with as much I don't know, disgust, I guess, is how I feel about it. But
I like Jar Jar Binks more than I like Rose.
Well, I do too.
I can't
but I'm
stand
just
her.
saying that
I just think she's just so
you said
awful.
she wants you to, like, makes you want to, like, rip your insides out, and I just can't imagine
She really
feeling
does.
that strongly about it.
I know it's terrible, because I wanted. See, this is the thing, is that I don't want to not like The Last Jedi. Every part of me wants to love this movie so much, and it's because I love Star Wars so much. And I'm like the first one to defend the prequels and usually to defend the things that people have negatively say about Star Wars because of how much I love it. But every time I watch The Last Jedi, and it's been a couple times now because I got it on digital a couple days ago, so as I'll be working or doing stuff at home, you know, I'll have it playing in the background and just trying to, like, watch it as many times as I can. And every time I hear her voice, and she's not the only problem I have with the movie, but, like, every time I hear her voice, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do it. I can't stand it. Like, it's not the sound of her voice, it's just the lines that she delivers, and the way that she delivers them is so lackluster and disappointing that I'm just like, I'd rather just not have you in the movie at this point. Like, to me, it'd just be better to not have you.
I feel like you're just pinpointing one person.
Yeah, one really specific
Yes, but that's like one thing with it. There's many other things, but like you said, it's stuff that's like, I might think it's ridiculous, but other people might think, like, hey, it makes sense. Because to me, there was a lot of stuff that I just was having trouble getting over. The one thing I can say is that, having watched it again, is that I still think that Kylo Ren's and Rey's relationship is the saving grace of the entire movie. Like, they're back and forth, and they're, like, every time I watch it and see, like, the Force connections and things like that, I like the movie more for those reasons. But, you know, not only that, but, like, I think that now, having watched it again, I don't mind that Snoke dies. Pretty much immediately after meeting him. Like, I'm not too upset about that anymore, only because I kind of understand what it meant for, like, Kylo's character, for him to die in that moment, so I don't really mind that. There's like a lot of other things I don't mind. I do, like, after watching the scene again, like I said, leading up to the casino, I do kind of wish it was Lando who was at the table with the, you know, the Big Rose or whatever. But,
yeah, it should have been. That was,
you know, that's simple little stupid things that are like whatever. But for the most part, it was like, you know, other stuff where it was like, you know, I just don't understand how the First Order. I just want to know more about the First Order. Like, I think that's the only thing, like, that I will have to say, like, is, like, you know, kind of really bugging me after watching it. Like, everything else I can kind of just reconcile with, like, yeah, does Rose drive me crazy? Yeah, but whatever, I can deal with it, I guess. But, like, the one thing that I just can't, like, get over is, like, I need to know more about the First Order and what they're about and what their motives are and why they're even doing any of the things they're doing. Like, with Palpatine, we at least had like an idea of like there's a reason why he's doing what he's doing. Like he has an end goal. Like it's no, we never know what his end goal is, and we never know what the whole point of the First Order is in the first place. And that's kind of something I was hoping would be explained in this movie. And it's not that it still can't be explained, because obviously we have a whole nother movie. But, you know,
I mean, the Empire wasn't ever really explained until the prequels. They were just big bad guys. Like the Emperor was nothing except for like a commander, but they weren't. Their motives and origin weren't there. You just knew naturally and intrinsically that the rebels were the good guys and the Empire were the bad guys. But it was never like
I think what it was is that like in those movies we knew that for a while that the status quo had been the Empire is in charge. So when we get introduced into the universe, like we know like this guy's been in charge for a while. This has been kind of the status quo for a while. You know, like there was something different at some point in time. Something happened where he took over, and this is just kind of how it is now. And like with this one, in this new thing, we know for a fact that like there was this gap of power where the rebels couldn't really seize, you know, power on the galaxy in a way that was going to be able to keep somebody like the First Order from rising. So someone like the First Order did rise. And so how did that happen? How was that allowed? So I just feel like, like maybe in the
books. Doesn't it explain that in Aftermath?
Well, we know that they come from the what's it called? The unknown regions. But why did they go to the unknown? We still don't know.
Stand it up side by side with the original Empire, and what's the difference? I'm asking. I'm not being rhetorical.
If you put them side by side, the original Empire, they're just not. I just don't think that the First Order matches up to.
Well, obviously, I mean, I don't mean in terms of like general badassness. I mean in terms of like what you're asking for, in terms of knowing the origin and knowing, you know, what happened to put them in place.
I just want to know.
Don't you know about them that you do know about the original?
So I feel like we know about, like, you know, the original Empire. It's like I said, we know that the reason why they came to fruition is because the whole point was Palpatine trying to overthrow the Jedi, and not only that, but to be able to use military and technological might in order to solidify power, so he can, you know, be able to, you know, live for 10,000 years by drawing out the dark side from this, like, whatever thing with Vader. So, you know, so we at least know, like, there's a motive for, like, what the Emperor is doing. Like, he has, like, you know, there's a reason why he uses the stormtroopers like he does. There's a reason why he uses the Death Star like he does. Like, there's a reason why he does everything that he does. There's even a reason why he uses Darth Vader in the way that he uses him to be kind of like his terrorist weapon around the world, or around the galaxy. So it's
give similar speeches, though, where we know that he wants to, you know, just destroy the Republic and take back the galaxy. Like, he gives that Super Hitler speech on the Starkiller base. And
so I wonder if it's just this dogmatic tie to, like, if the First Order just has this dogmatic tie to the Empire, and, like, they don't really know why they want to still go back to the way that things used to be when the Empire reigned, but they do want to go back to that way. So, or maybe not that they don't know why they want to do it, because, like I said, the First Order was started by... Well, yeah, I mean, the First Order was started by people who were in the Empire.
Right. Like, what happens in real history? Someone's in power. They are not very nice people. They lose that power, and then they want that power back. Like, they just miss being the you know, what the power is in the galaxy.
And you know what I think it is, too, is that the prequels really did give us that idea of the political...
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That's the difference. If you had said that's the difference between the two empires, I would have agreed. But the books are going to have to be the gap, because there's no way we get a prequel for 789 that has any real characters unless it's animated. So I just I guess I get what you're saying. What I was going to say earlier, you said that you like Last Jedi as a movie, but not as a Star Wars movie. And that's interesting to me, because I feel the exact opposite. I think I like it way more because it's Star Wars, and if it weren't Star Wars, I don't think I'd particularly like it. because I think that some of the strategy, again, we talk about like the military strategy in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogies, and you know how it was pretty cool because it was like legitimate. And this movie I felt like was lacking, you know, those like coups and the things that made Return of the Jedi, you know, compelling, even if it wasn't about Star Wars. Return of the Jedi had some really cool, like, you know, war stuff, and I didn't feel that way about this movie. So I think that that part of it we're the opposite on, but you do feel way more strongly anti-Last Jedi than I anticipated you feeling.
Well, because I didn't feel that way until I watched the movie again, and then I was like, I still have some stuff with this movie that I'm not okay with.
All right, when it was in theaters, you watched it twice, right?
Yeah.
All right, watch it again, I think, maybe. Because when you didn't like it the first time you saw it in the theater, and I was like, what's wrong with you? And then you went back, you're like, all right, I see it. And now you're like back to square one, except like way worse.
Yeah, now I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, did I like convince myself that I like the movie? And then like now I'm like, wait, maybe I don't like the movie.
You know, I think you're kind of subconsciously looking for stuff not to like.
I agree with that.
I don't know if it's that, or if I think it was almost the opposite, where I was trying to find things to like, because I was looking forward to this movie for so long, especially because of how good The Force Awakens was. Like, The Force Awakens is hands down one of my favorite, not just Star Wars movies, but it's like one of my favorite movies. It's such a good movie. It's like, it's incredible. So I just think like going from that to The Last Jedi was, like I said, it was just jarring. Like the whole experience is just jarring.
Last Jedi was not Empire to Force Awakens being New Hope. Like Force Awakens and New Hope are on par with each other, obviously in terms of their similarities in story, but also that they're both really cool. Like they both do a lot of just really fun stuff that make you enjoy the movie. And then you're like, all right, Empire did all this after New Hope did that the first time, and Last Jedi intentionally didn't do any of those things. So I think that I mean, to keep that in mind would be what I would recommend, I guess. Because I do think it's on purpose. Like, I think that everything that you don't like about Last Jedi was 100% intentional. I think it was designed to make you forget about Star Wars in that way and start to respect this new vision that it's going to go, you know, towards. Episode 9 might be more along the lines of Force Awakens because it's JJ and because they're wrapping up the trilogy and it's the last we'll ever see of our original heroes and all that jazz. But I think that anything in the future that's Star Wars related that's not Episode 9 will be much more similar to Last Jedi than it will be to Force Awakens. And I think that the point of Force Awakens was to start to redefine, you know, what Star Wars means to you, because they don't want you to be surprised when that happens.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's it's tough because there's a lot.
But it's weird because like I feel like you're a huge fan, and a part of your disappointment is like your fandom, and like that you feel a little bit.
I think that's really that's a good point. It's just a disappointment.
I'm also a huge fan, and I don't feel that way. So that part of it's weird to me because like I could see eye to eye with a lot of.
But you also can see why he doesn't like it, right?
Well, right, but I can't agree with some of the stuff, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to take care of it.
Yeah.
I can definitely say it's not my favorite Star Wars movie, but it's like I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like no matter what I say about it, I bought toys from the movie. I bought the movie itself. I've watched it several times. I went and saw it multiple times. You know what I mean? And so it's not like you said, it's not like I'll never watch it. In fact, you know, I'll more than likely watch it. You know, when I go through my and I go through my marathons. It's going to be added in. It's it's a part of Star Wars. It's it's the same thing. I feel like when people write off the prequels completely. I don't think it's necessary to do that, and I think they're missing out on a lot of good stuff when they write off the prequels. So
right, I was going to say, I think the people that write off the prequels are writing off the prequels for the sake of writing off the prequels at this point. Like, there's not very many people I would consider to be true Star Wars fans who still write off the prequels. Like, when the prequels came out, there was a lot of people who were self-professed, Star Wars nuts, and
Yeah.
then the prequels came out and they couldn't stand anything about them. I feel like there's people that way now about Last Jedi, but not about the prequels anymore. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like, I guess the closest comparison I can draw personally is Rogue One, because I don't like Rogue One as a Star Wars movie,
which
or
is hilarious
otherwise.
because I absolutely love Rogue One.
Yeah.
So it's just,
But you're an idiot,
that's just how it goes. Yeah, that's just how it goes. I don't know. It's funny how it is, but
no, I don't like Rogue One as a movie or as a Star Wars movie, and we've gone over the reasons why a lot. But I will, if I'm watching Star Wars in order, I'll watch it. Like I own Rogue One.
Yeah.
I saw it 3 or 4 times in the theater. I actually probably saw Rogue One more than Last Jedi just because of the baby and everything. But I like it fine. I just don't like it at all compared to Star Wars movies that I love. And I guess that I could see people feeling that way about Last Jedi. But like I said earlier, I can't see anyone saying objectively there's nothing redeeming about the movie, because that's just ignorance.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's silly.
No,
That's
yeah, I agree with that. Like, but it's there's a lot of, I just feel like there's a lot of if I could sum up Last Jedi and how I feel about it, it's just, it felt like a lot of wasted opportunity. It felt like they opened up a lot of doors with The Force Awakens, and then instead of like walking you through that door, at least giving you some idea of what's on the other side of that door, they just shut the door and I was like, I don't even worry about it. Like, not only we are not going to answer your question, we're just going to cut off the reason for having the question at all. Which is like, all right, I guess, So it just like, I understand that that's like, some people were perfectly okay with that and they were cool, like, with that happening. But for me, I was kind of like,
And that's cool, because
like a lot of
that's different from like the Rogue One thing, because that's, like I said, that's the intent of the movie. Like, that's the expressed intent. He's said that in interviews and all sorts of other, ways. So I think that that feeling is fine, because he was aware that people were going to feel that way. Whereas what I don't like about Rogue One is that, like, it's legitimately, like, not Star Wars-y to me, and I don't feel any sort of magic when I watch it or anything like that.
Yeah,
but,
I got you.
But the doors opening thing was like, that's the point of The Last Jedi. Like, if you were to, like, take a film class and they were to ask you about the theme of The Last Jedi, it's to throw out expectations and probably a little lesson about hubris here and there.
Which is ballsy. Like, it was a ballsy move.
Yeah, it's a different
thing
for Star Wars to have done.
Yeah, and I totally respect it, you know what I mean, for what it did for, the people who were able to jump on board with that and be like, all right, I definitely like it. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's a part of Star Wars, and anything that's a part of the canon or part of Star Wars lore, I'm gonna want to know what it is and what it's about and try to dissect it as much as I can. But for me, it's almost odd because this is the first time I've ever, like, not liked something that was Star Wars. Like, it's very rare, like, even books that I read that other people are like, oh, I hated this book. I'm usually like, oh, I love it because it had something Star Wars in it. So this is the first time that I've actually had to, like, deal with the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of something that's Star Wars, and it's weird because I'm like, I'm usually the first one to defend Star Wars.
I think that's how I felt about Civil War. Civil War was just kind of like, really not good to me. And I'll still watch it when I'm watching, like, the movies that Marvel has made. But, like, even now, people are all over Civil War, and I just I don't see it.
Yeah, Andy loves that movie, and
Andy's an idiot, though. Like, that's different. I hope he's listening, because he's one of the biggest idiots I've ever argued with. But I think that Civil War is different because, like, you have something that Marvel has already made that was already called Civil War, and it's the opposite of it. So, like, you can't you can't call it the same thing. Whereas it's not like Last Jedi is based off of a book called Last Jedi that's 30 years old. So it's I don't know. It's just I had a hard time reconciling that I didn't like Civil War because I wanted to like it and the fights were cool. Yeah. And it's weird because now you feel about Episode 9, you feel this sort of trepidation where you're not sure what to think ahead of time. And that's how I feel about, like, Infinity War. Like, I'm sure that I'll see it, and I already have tickets, and I'm excited to see it.
I feel the same exact way about Infinity War, man. Like, I did not like Civil War. And, I didn't like Civil War, so I'm like, I'm on the fence about Infinity War. But I mean, the trailer looked decent, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know.
The trailer for Civil War looked decent. That's the thing.
Yeah,
the
I
trailer
would
for
watch
most
the trailer
movies
for
look
Civil War
decent.
all day long because it's awesome. It's just
Yeah.
it's just not good, and especially especially if you're gonna call it Civil War and base it off of this comic that's got the same name, and then be totally
Yeah, and not only are you
dissimilar.
basing it off of a comic, but you're basing it off of one of like the most like highest grossing comics.
Oh yeah, it was
Like,
it was a big
like
thing
Civil
when it
War
came
is an extremely popular and well-known comic. So yeah, it's not like people don't know what, like it's not like some random. It's not like when they did Ant-Man, where like people like only half the people who were going to the movie theater actually knew who he was.
Movie or like a Last Hero Standing, which is another comic crossover event that actually goes way more similarly to the movie Civil War than the comic Civil War does. But it's just. I don't know. I think a lot of my disappointment in Civil War has to do with my love for Marvel Comics in general, and the fact that my favorite heroes just were shafted. But
I think that's that explanation exactly is why I don't really like Last Jedi.
But I disagree about them being shafted. For me, it was like
the same thing.
I feel like
I just
Marvel
feel like
comics were...
I feel like Luke definitely got shafted. I mean,
I
understand that some people
disagree.
really don't feel that way.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree more. I think he got the most love out of everybody. Yeah, I thought Luke was perfectly handled and well written.
You know what's so funny is like my wife, who like Amber, does not watch Star Wars really at all. Like she knows the characters, she knows like the plot really, but she's not a really big fan. And she watched The Force Awakens with me, and she really likes that one. She loves The Force Awakens. Like she'll watch that with me all day. So we finally go to sit and watch Last Jedi, and she wanted to check it out. So I was like, yeah, sure. Literally within like 5 minutes after being around Luke, she's like, she turns to me, she's like, what the hell is wrong with him? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, he's so freaking grouchy. She's like, is he like this the rest of the movie? I'm like, yeah, basically. She's like, oh my god. She's like, he's ridiculously grouchy. It's like, and I was like, yeah, see, like, I'm like, someone who doesn't even watch Star Wars that completely agrees with me. I'm like, right? It's like, it seems too much. It's like, I understand where people are coming from. Like, that's the thing. It's not like I'm completely blind to people's arguments and I'm just like, oh, nope, Luke sucks. Like, I hate him. I can't stand him. Like, you know, it's not like that at all. Like, I understand where people are coming from, why they would like, you know, I understand why people like his storyline and the way it, like, pans out. But for me, I just feel like there were so many different routes you could have gone that would have been more like what we expected. Not what we expected Luke to be, but just what...
That's the point.
That's the point. You just said it.
But this is... Okay, so this is my thing. Is that we, like, if I'm perfectly fine with accepting the fact that Luke is who he is now. But then I'm going to have to, like, say, like, all right, then the Luke that we know has fundamentally changed as a person. He's no longer the same person at all that we knew.
He broke down.
And, like, because my thing is, in that moment that he had with Kylo, where he, like, questioned whether or not, like, he should kill his nephew or not, like, he did all of that with the sake of thinking, like, all right, first off, Han's your best friend. You're going to kill your best friend's son. Not only that, but this is your nephew. Like, this is your sister's kid who you took under your wing because he had your last name, and you thought to yourself, like, all right, I'm going to be able to, like, whatever. So you pull this kid under your wing, all this other stuff, and then, like, I understand having moments of doubt. I get that. But you're supposed to be a Jedi. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, you're supposed to be a Jedi.
The three flashbacks are all inaccurate. The first one is... like purely, I don't remember the order of them, but one of them is pure left, one of them's pure right, and one of them's pure chaos. But none of them are accurate. So I don't know that it's like something you can just sit back and say, all right, he definitely did what happened in the flashback. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he ignited his saber to kill Ben.
He did acknowledge he had a moment of weakness, but we don't know the extent of that.
Right, exactly. And I think that Luke has had, like, that doesn't change Luke. Luke had moments of weakness that defines Luke. If anything, his moments of weakness led to issues with his aunt and uncle. They led to his moment in the dark cave on Dagobah. They led to him going to rescue his friends on Bespin. They led to him fighting Vader instead of just going in peacefully like he had planned on doing. Like, there's lots of things that Luke says he's going to do and then wavers on. And I don't think that it's, like, damning to him as a character to say, like, all right, Kylo's going down this path that I can't allow to happen to the galaxy. I need to figure out a way to get him off that path. I don't think that's a non-Jedi thing for him to do. If anything, it's the most Jedi thing for him to do. Because look at what the Council did when Anakin started going down that path, or when they realized that Sheev was who he was. So I think that I agree with you that Luke definitely is different as a character in Last Jedi than he was in the original trilogy. But I don't think you could that you couldn't be the Luke of the original trilogy and then not be the Luke that is in The Last Jedi. I think that you could very easily become that guy when you go through a lot of what he went through. Like literally the whole fate of everything ever is on him. Like that's too much responsibility for a farm boy. So I just think that even if you are a Jedi and you're bringing balance to the galaxy, so there's like times where he's allowed to show just not even like a full-on fissure, but like a little crack in the armor. He's allowed to do that once in a while and still be as good as he is as a person. So I don't know that it's uninspiring. If anything, it shows you, hey, everyone is, even the best person you could possibly imagine. Like Luke has always been the Jesus character. If Star Wars is an allegory for a Messiah story, and Jesus showed weakness too. You know what I mean? He questioned his father. In the Bible he shows anger. He's a human, which is what makes him who he is. That's what makes him perfect, is that he's imperfect. And I think that Luke is, if he doesn't show those moments, then you can't look up to him. You can't imagine being him. You can't ask your kids to be like Superman. Him because you can't. Right, and that's why Superman's a boring ass character, because he never has anything like that. So I think like I said, I think his send off was perfect. I think the people were like, oh, he should have beaten the crap out of Kylo. You just don't get it to me. Not you specifically, but the people on the Star Wars forums.
I think his
that
weakness is what makes him so likable, is because we see ourselves in him.
Yeah, just imagine being Luke and how we would have shut down. Like, we literally wouldn't have been able to speak English to... Right. Yeah, and he's out here being Yoda, basically. Being this crotchety dude that... Like, Yoda was a grump, too. I mean, it's just... He was a little bit more whimsical about it, but he wasn't looking to train Luke. Remember, he had to be convinced by the Force Ghosts of Obi-Wan, similarly to Luke with Force Ghost Yoda. So I just think that to say that it fundamentally, damages him as a character is I would take issue with that. I would argue with you. I don't think that.
I definitely see some of the points you're making as far as how Luke is, his character has had moments where he had to make a choice. And had to deal with his imperfections and things like that. I think really for me it just comes down to, if that's fine, I'm perfectly fine. Like I said, I'm perfectly fine with all that. I just don't like it. I'm fine. If that's fine, that's just the way
it
is,
so
then that's fine. But
about
it's just
specifically,
it's just because to
that's
me
so much
it's
of what you like about Star Wars. Like, you love Anakin. Like, he's your favorite character.
Well, that's why. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why Anakin to me and Darth Vader. That's what I was gonna say. Is Darth Vader and Anakin, and they're one and the same, but two.
But Luke
two sides
Luke
of a
has
coin,
the
really.
redemption that Vader eventually gets without ever going as bad as Vader ever goes.
Yes.
Right.
Luke is the Vader if Vader had never gone dark. He still gets the redemption. He still, makes a decision that affects everybody. But he doesn't.
He knew Vader's story. That's
exactly.
He did it.
And he knew that he had to embrace that sort of human side of himself. He couldn't expect himself to be this god because he's a man, just like
right. And
just like in the Bible. If you want to consider the Bible a novel, then that's what Jesus.
When we first go back and we see him on Ahch-To, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm it's because that I understand that. I get it. But to me, it just seems odd that he can't break out of this funk. I understand why he's in the funk. I get why he's not okay.
But he does
I understand
break out of the
its
funk.
correlation and the connection it has to his father. But by the time he gets himself but that's the thing. It's by the time he figures it out, and gets himself out of this, like, whatever. Rey's already gone to where she needs to go. Like, half the stuff that has already happened has already happened. And not only that, but now you can't even physically get there to, like, be there. Like, you're, like, have to, like, force project yourself across the galaxy, which is another thing that I'm just like...
Which is the most badass thing of all time. That's ridiculous amounts of power. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that he's capable of doing something like that.
I think I definitely understand the amount of power it takes, but visually, right? Like, watching it aesthetically, it's not the most cool thing to watch. To me, watching Yoda...
I thought it was more badass than the ultimate lightsaber duel could have been.
I get your point.
Watching him watching him get out of the way of one of Kylo's maneuvers.
Absolutely.
Like, that's all that happened. Like, they go and fight, and then, like, he, like, dodges one thing. Like, all I'm saying is that, like, watching it wasn't
But as a fan, I know what
fun.
it represents. Like, I know what it means to be able to do that in the Force, and that's, like, mind-blowing to me. Like, if he had shown up with his lightsaber and just beaten the crap out of Kylo, because that's what he would have done, that's again, it goes back to the point of The Last Jedi. It throws away your expectation of what the lightsaber duel is going to be. It shows you that there are other ways to be the ultimate badass in the Star Wars universe and still win the fight. And at the same time, like, you know, look cool. But I think that part of why Crate looks the way it does visually is because they knew there wasn't going to be, like, a lot of fireworks in that scene. That's also why the throne room scene is so... dramatic visually, because they knew that the final scene was going to be more of about the implication than about the overall fireworks display. But I think that's Last Jedi being ballsy. I think that's the Last Jedi doing something that they know Star Wars fans don't expect it to do and doing it anyway. Like, it doesn't have a Mustafar scene on purpose.
But is that like... yeah, I guess. And that's, like I said, all of that is perfectly fine. And, like, and I know a lot of people really like that. And that's great, but I just was like, you know, I'm perfectly fine with you not going with what's expected. Like, that's cool, and it works. It works.
But I don't
for those
think
people who are willing to, like, go along with the
what's
ride.
Not expected for the sake of that. It's going with what's not expected to show you that things can go that way. Like, and still,
but
like,
that's the part that I just can't buy, because it seemed like it was just to do it. Like, because to me it was like there were moments that didn't seem necessary. Like, it didn't seem like it was needed to do this. Like even with Rey's, like, parentage, right? Like, I understand, like, that was one of the movies that I actually did like. Like, the fact that she's nobody, to me, is a lot more interesting than if she's actually related to somebody.
I still don't think that's even true. I do think it's cool when she's in the mirror thing, and it shows, like, the repeated visions of herself, and then, you know, it shatters and all that. Like, that part of it's really cool to me. But if anything, that just strengthens my resolve that she's definitely related, because that's exactly what Luke goes through.
See, that's another thing where I'm just like, if she is related, again, that's perfectly fine. But then I just legitimately have no care in the world for this trilogy.
I need to watch
like, to
this
me, it's such a waste. Like, because to me, like, to do that would mean so many people lied to her face. It would mean so many people, like, completely just deceived her, who were supposed to be good guys. Like I said, again, that would mean, like, because you can't tell me, of all the Force things that we've seen happen throughout this series, like, we've seen, like you said yourself, we've seen the Force used in ways we've never seen used before. I cannot believe that standing next to Luke, he couldn't tell, like, all right, I'm related to you. Or standing next to Han, or standing next to Leia, or standing next to one of these people who are supposedly supposed to be her family, but she wouldn't know. But then, and then that's the thing. If any one of them knew, then that makes me lose respect for that character 100%.
Why?
Because I don't understand. Because if you're Luke, and you know that this girl is related to you, and all she's searching for,
go bad. Like, you've watched Kylo Ren, you watched Anakin turn. You're like, all right, maybe I can get this new Jedi Order together, and that won't happen. And then it does happen. You're not going to let anyone who might go down that path even come close to the beginning of that path. Like, that's why he's
even if it's at the detriment of this person's, like, sanity. Like, this is what I mean.
comfort.
Like, you're not telling this person, like, one of the most intimate things that they want to know about themselves for what? Yourself? And that's what I
for
mean.
the
Like,
whole,
if
for
that's the
whole
case...
galaxy. That's part of why he's so crotchety.
But then that
and
starts
can't
to
get over it,
sound
'cause
a
that's,
lot like
really
the last...
tragic.
That starts to sound a lot like the Jedi Order. And to me, like, that's, you know... That's
again, that's the
going
whole
down
theme
the
of the
that's
movie.
going right back down the wrong path.
Right.
Yeah.
They literally burned down the Jedi tree in the movie. Like, that's like the point, is that he realizes that the path that the Jedi have gone down before is not
exactly. So that's what I
do.
mean. Is like, if he was to, so that's what I mean.
But she's
Having
gone
this
by
control of like what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. Like, that was the same thing with him, like possibly striking or not striking Kylo. You know, it's, you're trying to take this whole whatever into your hands, and like you're the one who's making all the decisions. Where, you know, like with Rey, that's what I mean. Like, if he, like, just say, all right, listen, Rey, this is who your parents are. This is what you possibly can do. It's your choice. It's your choice to make a decision. So, like, that's what I mean. It's like, to me, I'd have more respect for Luke as a character if he would just tell her, this is who your parents are. You make the decision on whether you want to be bad or good, or if you want to follow me and try to like take out this whatever, or if you just want to chill on this island and we don't
But that's
do
what he
anything
did
and
with
we watch the
Kylo,
whole world
and
crumble.
it didn't work.
You know
so,
what I mean?
Oh, I can't do that again. Like, I think that's part of the tragedy of, like, I think, like, we all look to Anakin to be the most tragic character in the Star Wars franchise, but I don't know that that's necessarily true, because Anakin went down literally the only path he could go down, because he was manipulated to go down it. Whereas Luke saw both possibilities. He saw the great ending and he saw the terrible ending, and he had to sort of forge his own way, like, regardless of how it impacted himself or individuals in the galaxy, based on how the galaxy would end up as a result. So, like, if yeah, you're right. If by not telling Rey, hey, by the way, you're my niece or my whoever you are to me, does she not, like, sleep better that night because of it? Absolutely. But he might be saving the world from 2 Kylo Rens, and that's like a way bigger thing. And the fact that he knows that is a weight on his shoulders, which you just asked, like, how is he away for so long and not able to get over it? That's why. Because he knows that he's going to have to do this over and over and over again until he's gone. And then all of a sudden, like, he saves everybody again by doing, again, the most unimaginably strong thing possible in the Force. And then he's gone. And now all of a sudden, you know, the galaxy's left to fend for itself without him.
Right. And I think, you know, because we have to wrap up soon, but I think, like, that was, you know, if anything, that was my other issue that I had, was all of a sudden, and like you said, I understand that we're now supposed to know that the Force works in ways that we don't get, and blah, 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 that's fine. But, like, you know, what's frustrating is, like, there's no cap now. There's no... It used to be, like, Force lightning on the dark side was, like, that was it. That was, like, the ultimate. Like, if you could pull off Force lightning, you were clearly, like, that was, like... And, like, I feel like it's all been skewed now, because, like, Yoda comes back, is able to, like, pull fire from the sky and then, like, knock Luke on the head. So he's physically there.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's, like, supposed to be... And then we have Luke, like, travel all the way across the galaxy, and he's not only just, like, physically there, he's, like, interacting with people, and, like, he's there. He handed Leia a physical object, which means he carried a physical object all the way across the galaxy using the Force. Like, I understand what you're saying. It's incredible, and it's really, you know, it's a huge feat of strength as far as the Force is concerned. However, it skews where the cap is. Like, where is, like, what's the ultimate showing of strength of the Force? Because I would beg to differ that. I would beg to argue that what Leia did was way more powerful than what Luke did.
Right.
She should have been crushed within the vacuum of space and, like, died immediately. Yet she was able to keep herself from doing that and literally guided herself back to the only working bay door. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, where lies, like, I just feel like we used to have this is how, not necessarily this is how the Force works, but these are the different levels of power within how you can use the Force, and this is kind of where it caps. And
I
now
think
we
that-
don't really have that, where it's like you can basically do anything you want with the Force. Like Kylo and Rey can like be so close they can basically have conversations with each other in the same room. Like Luke can travel wherever he wants apparently, like because apparently they can apparate now, like wizards do. Like I don't know, like it just seems like
I think
really
the Kylo and Rey
confusing
thing
now.
is different because the Kylo Rey thing is because they're siblings, but that's different. The Luke thing.
Ugh. Oh
So,
my god!
You're talking about strength and power, and those are two separate things. And I think that, again, I think that's the point of this new trilogy, is that you can be really, powerful and not have any actual moral or, inner strength. And the whole
So
Star
you
Wars
still
history
think
we
they're
have,
siblings, even though
I'm
Snoke
positive.
says he's
No,
the
I
one
know they're
manipulating
siblings.
the.
Yes, they're siblings. Anyway,
Oh my god! There's no way.
The first 6 movies don't show you a force
Yes,
cap,
funny.
I would argue. I think that the first 6 movies show you the cap of the dark side of the Force. And the dark side of the Force requires power to generate lightning, right? So you have to pull from this evil part of yourself to generate lightning,
Yes.
in a physical way. Whereas we haven't
Right.
ever seen what the cap of the light side is. We've seen people make Force ghosts, which is pretty cool, but we've never seen it actually, the Force used by an alive person in any strong way by a light side user. Like, think about it. Other than
Right.
like telekinesis and, manipulating weak people. So I think this trilogy shows you the cap of the light side. So we've already seen the cap of the dark side. This trilogy shows you lightsiders who are ultimate strength. And Luke is like literally, again, the Jesus character. He's the chosen one of the galaxy. He's the one the prophecy's based on. Luke is the ultimate, pantheon of power for a light side user. He can physically project himself. That's stronger than anything a dark side user could possibly hope to do. The fact that Luke, Yoda, and Leia, who are probably the 3 strongest light side users to like ever breathe, can do these crazy things, by moving themselves through the vacuum of space, by projecting themselves physically, even though he's a ghost, or by moving himself physically across the galaxy. That's something that, no matter how strong you are on the dark side, you could never dream of doing. So I think that that's the point, is that the cap does exist, but the cap for the light side versus the dark side is way, way higher, because you don't, embrace this dark side of yourself. You embrace the universe as the thing that matters.
Which
And
again is very that's that's odd. It like you said. I understand like the whole bucking expectations for this, for the whole artistic.
But I don't think that
expression
that's
of it.
part
But,
of
like,
it.
again,
I don't
like,
think that's part of the bucking expectations thing. The rest of The Last Jedi certainly is. But I think the way they use the Force, other than maybe Leia's thing, is not to buck the expectation of how you think the movie's going to go. I think it's to show you that light can be that strong. And again, the strength that Luke shows to do that thing is stronger than Vader ever was. It's stronger than the Emperor. It's stronger than Kylo could ever even like think of being. It's only he could do it because A, of how strong he is in the first place, but B, of how pure he is from a light side perspective. And I think that that's why he can project himself. I think that's why that part of it is so cool to me, because no one else in the history of Force users could ever have done that. And it doesn't change how the Force is to me. Like, I think your thing is that, the Force is never like that, so the fact that it's like that now is mighty convenient for how they want to tell their story. But for me, the Force is like that. It's just waiting to be used like that. And and that's,
I do agree with
that's
that.
the
I think that the Force, as far as how it's used, is all dependent on the user itself. Like,
right,
so,
and they
like,
talk about that. Rey's like, you use it to move rocks,
yeah.
and Luke's like, what are you, an idiot? No, the Force is like,
Yeah.
the Force uses us, and if we can embrace
The Force
that,
is everything.
then,
Yeah, it's
right.
it's
then,
it's
then
what
you
fills
can do
in the
literally
space
any,
between
it's like
atoms.
Neo
basically.
in the Matrix. When you talk about Neo,
Yeah.
he's fighting this whole movie. There's ultimate badass fight scenes, but then what does he do in the very end when he like embraces who he actually is? He doesn't do anything. He moves out of the way. He like slowly dodges a million punches, and then he like flicks them. Like it's just like that in this movie. You asked like when he dodged that saber that Kylo had,
Right.
attacked him with. How is that more badass than an actual fight? Like that part of the
Right.
Matrix is, indicative of Neo embracing his destiny and what he needs to do to save
Right.
the world too. It's just like that. At least to me,
Yeah.
it meant a lot more to me than if he had, shown up in his X-wing and blown shit up. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Like,
See,
that's
like,
something
now,
Poe
now,
could do
like,
because
see,
he
that's
hasn't
what I mean.
developed.
Like, showing up in an X-wing and just like blowing stuff up. Like, I get what you mean. Like, obviously, like that doesn't have as much meaning as, like you said, like force projecting yourself across the universe or whatever to be, to be there and like take them on. But I just think to myself that, like I said, as far as wasted opportunity goes, you have this character who we've never like we've seen. I don't know. As far as Luke goes, it's very difficult for me to be able to just be like, all right, cool, Luke, like, you were kind of just a curmudgeon-y butthead the entire movie, and then, like, the last second, you did this weird thing by, like, making yourself, like, and it just never felt good to me.
Yeah,
like, it
yeah.
never,
To me, I
at
felt
any
like
point
the
in time,
exact opposite. I felt like it
good.
built up all this potential for Luke throughout 6 movies, and this was the ultimate realization of that power. Whereas you feel like it's a fizzle. I felt like it was the
it really was,
finale of
and
the fireworks.
I think it also may just be a difference in. Because again, Star Wars is so amazing because everybody takes their own. It's such a big universe and such a broad story as far as what characters are placed in it, what themes are placed in it. I mean, you could literally pick any, theme that has been, tested throughout literature and movies, and it's you can find it within Star Wars, within some character, within some subplot, somewhere. It's in there. And I think, like, so, for me, when I see the Force, and I think to myself, like, what an ultimate Force user does, and, like, how I would wield the Force, or I would use the Force if I could use the Force, I would have shown up and crushed every single one of those things with, like, my mind, and then pulled Kylo out of the thing and just fucked them up. But again, I don't think of the Force in the same way like a light side user would think of the Force, which is,
Yeah, I think Luke could do that
different.
and is beyond it. Like, he's
exactly.
He's moved beyond that plane of, like any person, I think, or most people would do that. They'd come in out of anger for Han, or out of anger for Kylo or whatever, and they would have messed him up. But I think what makes Luke is he's literally the only person who would not do that, who would do what he actually did. And that's part of what makes it, again, it's the Jesus character. You can't be Jesus and crush all the people who are trying to kill you. Like, you have to be the Jesus.
Exactly.
So I think that's what Luke does.
And like I said, I definitely get it, and I understand it, and I think it's you're making a great point. It does. I understand how it could fit along better with his character. It was just interesting. It was just odd. It was just odd to me. It was odd to see someone that I was waiting to see, like, not let loose necessarily, but I'm waiting to see, like, this old Jedi master who's, like, gonna be, like, wise and, like, sageful and, share his wisdom and help the net, whatever. And yeah, he might be a little bummed out because things didn't go his way, but at the end of the day, he's gonna, be that hero that we know him to be. And I just never felt like, oh, Luke, you're my hero. Like, I just never had that moment.
But he doesn't want you to. Like, just like Jesus. Like, Jesus doesn't say he's Jesus and that makes him Jesus. Other people say Jesus is Jesus. Like, he has, like, the faith in him is what makes him who he is. And, like, Luke isn't small-minded enough to need the glory or to need the victory itself. He needs what needs to happen to the galaxy. And I think that's what makes him, again, it's unique, and it is, I guess, frustrating because in the prequels you see Yoda flip all over the place and do all this crazy stuff, but in the end he ends up being this old dude.
And like I
but
said,
Yoda's
even, like,
not Luke.
I know,
like, Yoda has ties to the physical world and to the galaxy that Luke needs to push himself beyond, and it's different. Even Obi-Wan could never do what Luke had to do. Like, none of the strongest light side users could put themselves through what Luke had to put himself through voluntarily, just like Jesus. I think that it's just different.
Yeah, as long as we don't. So, like, as long as now, like I said, that's fine. As long as now, that's the cap. Right, like, that's it. Like, that's how strong you can.
Yeah,
so, like,
I would
if
be
Kylo
mad
comes
if,
out with some
if
crazy...
Rey came through and, like, all of a sudden she could, like, grow to the size of a giant or something. Yeah, that would be dumb. But But I don't think that there's anyone in the galaxy left
I'm perfectly
who's as strong
fine with this, with Luke doing this, but like that, like he's the Grand Master then. Like that's
no,
it.
absolutely,
Like,
yeah. The only way would be that if he comes back as a ghost and can do something that no other ghost could do, I could see that. Or if Rey is related, I could see her having a strength that we haven't seen other Jedi have. Maybe not on par with what Luke showed in The Last Jedi, but like beyond Yoda or Obi-Wan maybe.
Yeah.
But
and I think that's another question I had too, as far as the Force, like, and I had seen something about it, and it made me question it, because I'm like, it's a good point. Like, Anakin has all these years of training, and is this amazing Jedi. And then I watched the throne room scene again, and I thought to myself, like, Luke had a tremendous amount less training than Anakin did. And Rey had even less training than Luke did. Yet they all seem to be perfectly handy with a lightsaber and able to use the Force when they need to.
Well, again, I think that they Luke and Rey specifically allow the Force to work itself through them. I don't think they're manipulating the Force when they fight Vader or Kylo. I think they're allowing the Force to manipulate them and, accept their movement. Just like in Force Awakens when she sort of closes her eyes and just accepts the Force into herself. I don't think she's the one manipulating it.
And so, like, my thing is, like, I understand that, but, like, there were, like, whole lessons and whole, like, years dedicated to this when you're in the Jedi Academy. Like, doing exactly what they're doing, letting the Force work through you and being able to harness it the way that they're doing it. People would spend years in the Jedi Academy trying to learn these things.
Yeah, but they're not Skywalkers.
It seems like, but they're not Skywalkers. Okay.
No, I'm serious. Like
no, I mean you're right in the
thing,
sense of
you do train
Kylo
in the academy and how to duel, but you don't train in how to, like, when the chips are down and it's like one person's gonna die and the other person's not. Like, Jedi die all the time. And they die to people way weaker than Darth Vader. They die to droids or clone troopers or whatever. But I think that, like, part of what Star Wars is, and we don't really talk about it a lot because it's like a really deep theme for Star Wars, but I think part of what it is dark side users use the Force, light side users allow the Force to use them, and that's it. And a lot of Jedi don't get that. Like, Mace Windu's a great warrior, but he doesn't understand that the Force uses you. Qui-Gon does. Mm-hmm. And what I mean? That's the difference between the two. And that's why I think someone like Luke can survive, first of all, survive Bespin, not even considering the throne room in Jedi, but then win the throne room in Jedi, because not only can he embrace the Force in that way and allow the Force to use him, but he can also show Vader that that's what he's missing. And then in the Kylo Ren Rey scene from Force Awakens, it's the same thing. Rey could have easily died right before she closes her eyes and accepts the Force. But Kylo's pulling punches because he's supposed to be capturing her to train her, remember? And then she, when her back's against the wall, she doesn't do anything. She just closes her eyes and lets the Force do the work. Just every time you see Luke start to embrace the Force, what does he do? He closes his eyes. He pulls the X-Wing, the X-Wing wobbles out of the water with Yoda. He's moving rocks with his eyes closed. He's pulling the lightsaber on Hoth. Like, all those times, it's him just embracing that he can't do anything. It's the Force doing everything. So I think that Rey recognizes that just naturally, and, as just on an organic level, again, because she's definitely a Skywalker. But I think that...
I don't know about that.
I think that...
I definitely agree with you, but I would have to say, just to argue for the dark side, because it is the more superior side, I would have to say that dark side users don't understand that you can't, because Vader didn't he didn't use the Force in the sense that, like you said, like Rey allows the Force to work through her. He just used a different source for that power. So he allowed the Force to just work through him. Right. But it was just it's just through it's from a different part of you. So whereas like Jedi,
but that's why he could never
and serenity and allowing yourself to almost be like, in a sense, what you're saying, like, in a sense, it's like half and half. Like, what you're saying, definitely, so, as a dark side user, you wouldn't necessarily say to yourself, all right, I'm in this moment of desperation, I need to just relax and let the Force flow through me, and whatever happens will be. A
Right.
dark side
He's-
user would be like, all right, this is what's happening, this is the problem, and this is what I'm going to do
Right,
to
you're gonna
fix
make it that
and
way,
I'm going to
yeah.
manipulate the Force in a way that's going to make sure that I come out the victor.
No, I think that
Um,
Vader was naturally more powerful than anything he could have possibly faced, especially since that after Vader came to power, the Jedi are gone anyway. Like, Vader
That's
never had
true.
to fight a Qui-Gon or an Obi-Wan. Like, he's fighting little
Yeah.
pawn Jedi that happened to survive. So
Yeah.
I don't think that Vader ever had a real true test of his power, and I think that, again, at the end of the genius of the Emperor's plan is that he knew Vader would be fueled by rage, which was just enough power to be as strong as he needed him to be, but not enough power to turn on him and beat him. Because if he ever did, the Emperor's going to destroy him just because he has way more strength because he's not being fueled by rage. The moment that Vader's strong enough to turn around and beat the Emperor is when he realizes that rage isn't what fuels him anymore. So I think that's the whole point, is that, again, he fights Luke. Luke shows him, look, like, it's not about anger. It's about the meaning of life. And Vader then takes that energy. He loses his anger. It's gone forever. And he's able to finally turn on the Emperor. I think that that's why the Emperor was, he wasn't destined to fail, but that's why I think he ended up losing, is because he didn't account for that eventuality. I think he assumed Luke would turn because of how easily Vader turned, but when Luke didn't turn and Luke showed, hey, you don't have to turn, and by the way, that's not real strength, Vader's like, oh, and you know what I mean? So
that's
no
true,
more
and I think that
resentment.
also has to do a lot with the difference between how, like, and I know, like we said it on the channel before, like, Luke and Vader grew up very differently. Like, as much as Luke, didn't know his parents and things like that, I mean, he grew up pretty comfortably. I mean, he was with his aunt, he was with his uncle, he was, he was happy for the most part. He wasn't a slave, exactly. Whereas it was probably a lot easier, not probably, it was easier to manipulate Anakin because he was a slave, and he grew up terribly, and he lost his mother, and, he went through much more.
He had love for Padme. Luke didn't have that, that weakness to exploit for Padme that Anakin had. There's a lot of things that Vader had that were exploitable weaknesses to someone like the Emperor, who's just manipulated.
And you're right. The minute he did turn to that side where it was love instead of hate, it was
he was stronger. He was stronger. Turning point. And then I think after that, there's no point where he's killing the Emperor where it's out of anger or like rage or resentment. It's out of love for his son. And then, as soon as the Emperor's toast, what does he do? He takes off his helmet, and he's, redeemed. And like, it does. There's a lot of similarities.
And like
to the
I said,
Bible,
the reason why Vader is and will always be my favorite character, and just not in Star Wars, but in cinema in general, is because of that showing of how closely related love and hate are, and how similar they can be when it comes to how they make you feel sometimes. But yeah, Star Wars is amazing, and I love it so much. Regardless of if it's a movie that drives me nuts, and every single scene, or not every single scene, but a lot of the scenes are like, what's going on here? Or if it's The Empire, and every single scene is my favorite scene, and I could watch it 1,000 times. Or if it's one of the books or one of the comics or what have you, Star Wars is the greatest thing ever because of all the reasons that we're arguing about. Whether it be you're like me and you prefer the dark side and being able to manipulate others and bend them to your will, or if you're like Adam and rather sit back and let the world come at you as it will. All of these things, love, hate, friendships, they're all explored within Star Wars, and it's a fantastic thing to talk about and to discuss, and I love it so much. So thanks, guys. We went a little bit over, but that's okay because it was a really good discussion. I had a lot of fun talking about it. So
I'll have
a little
those
bit
super
over
secret presents pretty soon. I found out, so keep your ears open.
Oh yay! That's right. Yeah, and So. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us on the Cube Gamer side. Thanks for joining us on the Talking Sith side. Really appreciate it. Join me tomorrow morning. If you're on the Cube Gamer side, I will be starting a new show in the morning called Good Morning Nerds. It's just a morning show that I'll be bringing to you, talking about all the nerdy stuff of the day, all the nerdy news of the day. So that'll be cool. check me out tomorrow morning. I will be here, and every Wednesday you can find us at Talking Sith. Check out Cube Gamers for a lot more content coming up, because my wife's back at work, so I have a little bit more time on my hands.
My wife.
My wife. But yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate you coming by. It was a fun discussion. We're gonna be back to talk next week.
Congratulations to us for getting Jared for once. Jesus.
Yeah, right. Thanks for coming back, Jared. Sorry, me and Adam spent the entire time yelling at each other.
I enjoy listening to you guys argue. It's pretty fun, actually.
But yeah, it's nice to have you back, man. I hope work's going well and all that good stuff, dude.
Oh, it is. It's going well.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. But yeah, guys, we'll check you next week on Talking Sith. Thanks again for joining me and Adam.
Later.